Welcome to Small Town Bonsai and Bonsai Therapy. As we can see in this video, my voice does not agree with what you're seeing on the image on the screen. Basically, because I completely forgot to turn on the microphones. So I started recording without microphones, so my original video has no sound. But I still think it's important enough for you to see what I'm doing here. So I'm gonna do this with a voice over the video. So there's a ficus that I was working on, and I was looking at this tree and I saw that it looks good from the distance, but when you look at the structure of the tree, it's really missing a lot, and especially the center trunk right there where I'm pointing at that point in time. If you see, is quite there's no taper. There's no taper whatsoever. On the contrary, on the top right there, it has reverse taper. So right now, this tree is not developing very well. I'm not very happy with it. There is a fairly decent first branch, but we definitely have to make some drastic changes on this tree. So that's what you're gonna see in this video. We're gonna do some very drastic changes just to make it look better. Thinking about the future. We're always thinking about the future, not how it's gonna look today, but how it's gonna look in a few years, months, years. In bonsai terms, we're probably looking at years from now. So you're gonna see some drastic decisions that are gonna be made for this tree. And if you consider the theme of small town bonsai and bonsai therapy, sometimes in our lives we have to consider that too. There may be things that are not going in the direction that we want them to go, and we have to seriously consider making some drastic changes in our lives. So this tree is teaching me that sometimes you do have to do that. You do have to make some drastic changes, and we're gonna have to go and proceed with that. At this point in time, the decision has been made. So we're gonna use a saw and we're gonna make a drastic cut. A lot of people get nervous when these things happen, but don't worry. This is a ficus. Ficuses recoup very easily. Its recuperation process is very easy. And this is a pretty healthy tree. So we're gonna use a saw to remove all that trunk that I didn't like. And as you can see, now the tree is gonna be a lot smaller, but it's very much shorter. And the top part, and I'm even gonna put it in some soil, see if it roots. But that's not the main thing. The main thing is that I want to redirect the growth of this plant and take this tree in a very different direction. As you can see, the cut was done there. So the next step is gonna be to clean that cut. And then we can start thinking about using that second branch, what would have been the second branch before. And that's where the direction that my tree is going to take. That is going to create taper. That's going to create a better shape in the future. And there was a little accident where I cut myself a little bit there. So I'm not trying to show any blood. It's just that the blade touched my hand and cut my skin a little bit. Nothing bad. It was just a little bit. So yeah, sometimes you got to keep going with it. So the next step that you're gonna see is how I'm gonna clean the cut that I did on the tree. Once a cut has been made, especially a drastic cut like this, the next step is to make sure that that cut is nicely clean. We want to clean it pretty good. We're gonna use this concave tool in order to make it give me that feeling of taper. So I'm cutting in an angle there, but the whole purpose of this is to make sure that wound that we just created on that tree is gonna be nice and clean We're gonna put some sealer later on, but right now it is important that it's a clean cut. Also, I have to make sure that when I'm using this tool, I'm not gonna cut so deep that it's gonna harm the branch that I'm trying to develop. Eventually, this ficus will heal over, and that cut is not gonna be visible. That's probably gonna take a few years. But yeah, ficuses are good at that kind of stuff. So we are going to work with that. And after it's clean, I'm going to show you the next step. The next step in cleaning the wound that we just created, and that cut, is to use a very sharp blade. In this case, I'm using a razor. These are not expensive. You can get these things very cheaply. But you're going to clean that wound, that cut that you made, and make it very, very easy for the tree to heal over. Now, when you're working with such sharp blades, please be extremely careful. It's very easy to have an accident and cut a finger, we're trying to do cuts on the tree, not on our hands. So please be extremely careful when you're working with this. But a clean cut is much easier for the tree to heal, and it's much easier for that to eventually disappear because the tree heals over the cut that you just made. So it's very important to clean that cut very, very nicely, but also very carefully. I cannot stress that enough. Please be very careful. Don't hurt yourself during this process. So now it's time to start wiring the tree. And this will allow me to create the structure that I'm seeing that would be my future for this tree. Luckily, ficuses grow very fast. So this should not take as long as other plants. Now, I'm using a number 4 aluminum wire, and usually with tropical trees like ficuses, you're gonna use aluminum wire because they grow fast and you don't need to keep that wire on that plant for a long time. You'll see that traditionally when you're gonna bend a branch down, you're gonna start with your wire from the top. If you're gonna bend the branch up, you're gonna start from the bottom. And that's what you're seeing right there in the process as I start wiring these branches. And in order to give this plant the structure that I feel it's going to be good for the future. Always be careful when wiring the plant. You don't want to hurt the branches as you go around. You don't want to pinch any leaves with your wire. And as you can see, with one hand, I'm holding the wire, as with the other, I am moving the wire around the branch and placing the wire around the branch. I want to give that branch a little bit more structure so you don't hurt the plant while doing this process. This process is always going to be a little stressful for the plant, but we want to minimize that. So hold the wire with one hand. Now it's time to place that secondary branch in position. As you can see, it's moving up because that's gonna become my trunk for the tree. You can already see how the taper is going to significantly improve. Now that first branch is gonna come down. Now, of course, this has been done during the fall. So that is the reason why I'm not making very drastic cuts in this tree as far as the branches. I want to let this tree grow more, become thicker in some of those branches, and then the tree is gonna have to be compacted, bring all the foliage closer to the trunk. So that is part of the process. So today it's gonna look kind of tall and thin, but eventually it's gonna become smaller, more compact. I apologize for the views of the pot, the black plastic pot, and the camera is attached to my chest. So from my perspective, it looked pretty good, but from my chest, you have a very good view of what my of what the pots look like. And this is the final product. This is how it's gonna look today. Of course, there's gonna be a lot of foliage that needs to grow, a lot of secondary, tertiary branches need to grow. But the problem with the taper has been resolved. You see on the left, we need more branching. So that's going to develop a little later on. But for now, that does solve the main issue. And it'll give me a little bit more time to work with this tree and take it in a better direction. As usual, if you like the content, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up button. Just like in our lives, we have to make drastic decisions sometimes in order to become better in the future, and the results are not going to be seen right away. So, but if we're working with a purpose, we can achieve what we're looking for. As always, remember, a tree with strong roots can withstand even the worst or the most violent storms. See you in the next one.